Let's open up the OG mailbag inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and, of course, thanks to our friends at Copiers Plus, always our presenting sponsor. But when we open up the mailbag on Fridays, it's thanks to our friends at the Butcher's Market. Check them out online at thebutchersmarkets.com. Joe Giglio is back from Whalers night. I am Joe Ovias. I am sitting here looking at ways to get around copyright laws. It's just another Friday here at OG Media headquarters.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said I'm back from Whalers night. I saw Doug Wharf last night. I saw Tom Dundon last night, and I saw Rod Brendamore. And I said, hey, guys, there's a direct line here between me coaching Rod up with parenting advice and Rod coaching Mikko and Taylor Hall up with said secondhand Giglio family dating advice, getting women advice.
Yeah.
So I would like a little point to the passer if we could mix and match all of our sports and metaphors and colleges around here, because that might have been win number whatever for Rod Brendamore, but that was win number one for the OG. We got Rod. It wasn't just me. Like, we got Rod in the right place yesterday. Because clearly, it's all coaching.
It's all coaching.
It's all coaching. I mean, right? When Mikko doesn't score, it's Rod's fault.
Yeah.
When Taylor Hall doesn't help the team, that's Rod's fault.
So what's last night?
So when they come out and Mikko Rantanen looks like one of the 4 best players in the NHL in the first 5 minutes of that game, well, that's coaching. And now Rod needs to turn around and say, hey, I never would have thought of that. Just relaxing. And if you combine our two theories about how to get yourself a woman or a date, if you combine our two theories, you got something there. I don't know if that gets my name on the cup or gets the OG on the cup.
It won't.
But I'll gladly just take our season turned around. I can pinpoint. It was February 27th. We had a conversation, Joe Ovias and Joe Giglio, and I saw the light. I saw the bigger picture. They showed me the way. That's all I want.
In hearing that interview back yesterday.
Because you know what I like more than anything.
I know that you were right.
History of civilization.
Yeah, that was your thing.
Joe.
And going back.
You were right.
When we ran that interview yesterday, and I heard back the back and forth between you and him, it really did give you an illustration of the differences between you and him.
You and me.
We ain't the same.
I almost prefaced it.
And Rod was very much like, no,
you got to go get it.
It's like, that's the most Rod thing ever. Well, it's the most Rod thing ever. Anyway, with the mailbag, this portion is free. You want the full mailbag? Head on over to ogtrianglemedia.com. Sign up for as little as $13 a month. You can be part of OG fans. Let's get after it.
Here's the mail, it never fails. Makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, what a whale.
The first one is from the sports phone. This is from a 336 number.
Joe's, what's going on? This is Jack from Wilmington. You might remember me from shamelessly shouting out my Seahawks, who then went on to take a L to Elon, which was very disappointing for me. However, this phone call is not about basketball. It's not about how many years Quinn Cook has played at Duke. I think a lot of Duke fans, such as myself, are all just maybe wrapped up in that because we wish he actually did play at Duke for 100 years. But anyway, this call is about your Carolina Hurricanes. Big Canes fan, been a Canes fan for a long time. When I was a kid, we were so bad that if we read enough books in school, we got free tickets to go to the games. So been following them for a long time, and I feel like I do a pretty good job of appreciating the success that we have and how fleeting that is, especially looking at where the Hornets are at and the Panthers are at. I don't even know if it's fair to even put the Hornets in the same realm as the other pro franchises. But I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me with the Canes defensively is Orlov has regressed a little bit but I don't think he's the entire problem. I think Burns' Iron Man streak needs to come to an end, and I understand Rod being a player's coach, he probably wants to protect that streak as much as he can. And some people are just saying that Burns needs to hang it up and be done. I think he can still be a useful piece. I mean, we've seen when he's been at his best with us, the way that he can quarterback a power play, and just some of the wise veteran decision making that he can have. But this season, he's just looked a step slow. And so I think the answer with him is you either find a way to get him to another contending team, or maybe a team that's looking for some veteran leadership, or you say, hey, we're not going to play you every night. You're still a valuable part of this team, and allow him to maybe be able to pour out a little bit more every night that he plays instead of having to give just what he can every night. I think I'd like to see Morrow get some time on the ice, but I don't know if at this point we're just waiting till next season. I know we've got some defensemen in the pipeline, so I don't know if you guys have any thoughts or insight on this.
That was a lot to unpack right there. I appreciate the references to Quinn Cook and being a little wrapped tight right now with Duke. I completely understand that. There's been a lot of conversation around the Canes and defense and Brent Burns specifically, and Dmitry Orlov is kind of secondary. And this ties into a conversation we were having with Luke DeCock from the News and Observer earlier this week. I know you're very much on the whole, Brady Shea, Brett Pesce thing, and kind of seeing what you could get out of Brent Burns and Orlov in this transitionary period before the young guys arrive and a new defensive core starts to show up. And in yesterday's conversation with Rod Brindamore, there was some feedback that we received related to Burns. People are clearly not happy with Burns' play right now.
Correct.
And it was, I don't want to call it a softball way of getting to Burns, but it was prompting Rod to talk about Burns and his role with Slavin and how he has played. And Carolyn, who has been a huge Canes fan for a long time, I think she goes all the way back to these old message boards, these Canes message boards, but she had posted the Rod interview on Blue Sky. And a Canes account, the Storm Seller, said, good interview, but until someone asks about Burns, I'm still of the position that no one in Carolina asks, quote unquote, the hard questions. And Carolyn pointed out, well, they did bring it up, and then somebody responded in a very softball sort of way. And the Storm Seller, if you're watching on YouTube, I've got this up. He gives an example of the question he would like asked, which, okay, fine. Rod, you've done a lot of swapping of players to get the forward lines going. Have you given any, he did that last night, by the way. Have you given any thought to trying something new with the defensive pairings to try to bolster the 5-on-5 defense, particularly early in games? Giving up multiple early goals has been a recurrence in several games now, end quote. And it's like, okay, I see what you're getting at. And all I said was there's different ways to get to the point. And this is something that you and I both know. When you've talked to somebody for enough times, you've interviewed them enough times, you know what their answer is going to be. So you just have to prompt them to get that answer. If you ask Rod in that direct fashion, it might serve me, but I know his response would have been the same. He would have said, well, look at the totality of the game. One mistake against a good team, it's going to cost you in this league, straight up. He was going to answer it however you wanted to frame it. So all this is to say, I understand where the Burns discourse is, as the caller pointed out. Rod has a tendency to reward the hardworking guys, his guys. Burns is one of those guys, the Iron Man thing and everything else. And you do wonder if maybe he could use a breather here in the regular season, because he's going to be needed even more once we get to the postseason. That's how you balance that. Totally see where people are coming from on that.
All right, so I'm going to be completely transparent with you. I had no idea that Brent Burns had this streak.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It's a thing, yeah.
They don't make a big deal about it.
No, they don't.
I just read the game notes. I saw that it's actually in the game notes, but it's not like prominent in the game notes or anything like that. Here's the thing, I respect the streak. Man, do I ever respect the streak.
Sure.
But he has no chance of ever catching Phil Kessel, who currently also has a 100 and 62 game lead on him.
Mm-hmm.
So while I respect a streak, with Ripken, it was like everyone was like, "Oh man, you need to sit, you need to sit," and it was like, "Well, yeah, I mean, like he's trying to chase a record, right?"
Yeah.
Like Burns is not chasing a record. It's more of, "Hey, this is amazing that you've done this," but now in March when they're about to play 16 games in 30 days,
maybe
would it be the worst idea? Maybe not. Just to get a little inside baseball here in terms of how I think.
Mm-hmm.
Burns is not a Rod question. Okay. Rod is like Bill Parcells back in the day when he said, if I'm going to cook the meal, I want to pick out the ingredients.
Yeah.
Rod does not pick out the ingredients.
No.
Tom Dundon picks out the ingredients. So the next time we talk to Tom Dundon, that's who you ask the question to. You made a choice when they signed Burns, when they acquired Burns, when they did, and when they signed Orlov, when they did, they made a choice to invest in those two players at the number that they got those two players at, instead of reworking or making bigger deals with Pesci and Shea,
Mm-hmm.
or one of Pesci and Shea, the way that the salary cap worked out. And, without betraying any kind of trust, last night I talked to Tom Dundon, and because I was giving him a hard time about being quote unquote the worst owner in the league, according to agents.
I'm sure he was shocked by this.
Yeah, I'm stunned.
The agents, no less.
But one of the things he had said was, we did some things because we had to, because of the salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you'll see that change. Now, again, I think they made a choice. I didn't agree with it at the time when they brought Burns and Orlov in. Straight up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're paying the price for that now.
Well, I think to your point, again,
but that was remember when they signed him, it was, wow, we got Burns at this price.
Yeah.
Wow. Because
there was a shelf life.
You got to go all the way back though, Joe. Burns is actually the replacement for Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, there was a shelf life on Burns. To go,
as your top,
not to
non-Slavin, non-Pesci, homegrown defenseman.
Not to belabor the point with the Rod interview yesterday, but go back and re-listen to his answer about roles, pieces, trying to make it work.
Yes, that's what his job is.
That's his job.
And I think accurately I think he solved the problem from the offseason and the beginning of the year.
Yes.
And then they reshook the pieces on him and said, okay, now go put the puzzle back together.
Because Tulsky and Dundon see what Natchez' ceiling was.
Sure.
And if you have an opportunity to get Mikko Rantanen, well, guess what? That's what they're going to do.
You've got mail.
Which gets us to Iron Caniac.
Okay.
For argument's sake, if Rantanen is at best a 30-goal, 70-point player in the Canes system and not a 50-goal, 100-point guy, should the Canes sign him to the massive contract that's been reported? Or would it be better for all parties if he was flipped at the deadline for pieces that fit better? Remember how Sandis Ozolinsh in that situation played out. Wow.
The actual Canes fan. Here
we
go.
A deep cut for Sandis Ozolinsh. Let's freaking go. Great player that just did not work out as expected with the Canes. Yes, the old offensive-minded defenseman. But trading him got them Kevin Adams and Brett Hedican, two crucial pieces for an eventual Stanley Cup.
I was hoping to see Kevin Adams last night. Apparently he doesn't do interviews.
I didn't know that.
Or whatever his story
Does
is.
he not make he's not available?
It's like him and Ron Francis are on my dead to me list.
Oh, wow.
I love Kevin Adams.
I don't know if his number still works.
I've always loved Kevin Adams.
I've always loved Kevin Adams too. Kevin Adams,
yeah.
One of the real ones. Quick story time. Game 6, Edmonton. They shit the bed, right? And coming back home, everybody's freaking out. And, I got to do my job. Kevin was like, "Yeah, man, let's talk. It's all good. We'll talk." Real one. But he doesn't talk anymore.
No,
mind you, I have not
communicated. He's the GM, so he's in charge of like Buffalo.
He's been the GM for a hot minute too.
Yeah. No, I'm not impugning him. I'm just saying we had once reached out, kind of like we did with Francis.
Oh, that's a separate issue.
Two different things.
Yeah, that's a separate issue.
Ozo was lazy. That was kind of his problem. Just being serious. He was.
That's not Mikko's problem.
No.
What I would say, I understand.
No. But the construct of this question is very interesting.
Yes.
Because what you're really asking is it possible for someone to be a 100-point producer under Rod Brindamore and in this style of play? That is essential to what you're asking.
So far, the answer is no.
They have not had a 100-point scorer since Eric Stahl in 2005-06.
Yeah.
That's kind of sort of odd.
But with Rod, they've acquired and have players that you would expect to elevate to that point. But again, the system.
But what has chronically been the problem for the Carolina Hurricanes ever since they've been here? Chronically. Other than maybe for a smidge of 2 total seasons. The power play.
Oh, yeah.
You score your points on the power play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Key last night.
Again, things I learned from Rod Brindamore. One of the years he was struggling, he said to me, "Well, what's my power play time?" I was like, "Well, I know you kill penalties, but you don't play on the power play." He's like, "Well, that's where you score points on the power play." So forever, the Canes' problem has been the power play. So there's a correlation there between where you're scoring when you're not scoring. But key to this question, which is a really good construct, is it possible? And I would say under the old cap, I would say no, you don't invest. Under this new cap where you've expanded room, 14 million isn't really 14 million. It's not the same as what it was previous. The real question is what kind of I even wrote it down, like, because I'm new to this. Looking last night, because we still haven't seen my super line yet. And at first I was like, well, maybe they're all left-handed. Well, Rantanen's left-handed. Jarvis is right-handed. What are we waiting for?
I don't know.
What are we waiting for?
I don't know. I guess they don't want to break up the my two dads line.
So
I don't know.
Then that'll be my next great coaching moment. We'll save that in case of emergency.
Fair
break
enough.
Glass. Maybe that will get my name on the cup.
Maybe.
Rod's favorite thing when you suggest line combinations.
Oh, he can't get enough of that. Just like he loves it when I say people are saying. He loves that one. He really loves that one too. All right, back to the sports phone at 336 number.
Dominance down in Brooklyn, hope all is well. Whalers night happens again for the Hurricanes. And I just wonder, at one point, the franchise graduates from this stolen valor debate for doing the Whalers gear every single year. Franchise hasn't been around for almost my entire lifetime. And yet people still complain that they trot the colors out and the logo. Frankly, I think if you're still a Whalers fan at this point, you should be thankful that they're even doing the colors, seeing them in an NHL game at this point. And I think it's a nice nod for them. When most of the people working at the franchise have no affiliation to the Whalers and never worked there. But it's getting a little exhausting, especially living up here in the Northeast where people do still have those emotional connections to the Whalers. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Thanks for taking my call. Keep up the good work.
So this one's a little complicated, and I think it requires a lot of context for the Whalers logo itself, which is an iconic logo that has been repurposed and recontextualized over time. There was a time, and I don't know how it was for you, but for me specifically, growing up in a non-hockey market in South Florida, the Whalers logo was kind of like a hipster cred thing. Like you had a Whalers thing and you would drink PBR before PBR became like a very known hipster thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So where I grew up, people were Devils, Rangers, Islanders.
Yes.
And if you really wanted to be funky, you would go with the corduroy green Whalers hat.
Right. The style was to this day phenomenal. To this day, It's an incredible logo. It's an incredible colorway. And I bring this up because I don't feel like that should be lost to the dustbin of history. That's all I'm saying. So if we come at this from the very clear-eyed view that Whalers Night is a cash grab for an owner who likes money, one of the first things he did when he took over was, hey, man, this Whaler stuff is an opportunity to print money. So we're going to do it because that's what I'm about. So on one hand, while I understand the naked cash grab associated with Whalers Night, I also like the fact that it keeps this stuff in the public eye. It keeps you in the sports consciousness because it's an incredible logo. Okay. On the other hand, though, and this is something that I remember Bomani Jones got into when he had his feelings known about the Houston Oilers throwbacks worn by the Tennessee Titans. This was last year. And I think they played the Texans, which made it even more ironic, right? And they got beat by the Texans that game. Anyway, Bomani's overall point was that sports franchises, specifically the NFL, but in general, sports franchises, professional sports franchises are almost like a public trust for your city. It represents your city. You have an association with your city. It means something to your people, right? And for the Whalers, not only is there an affinity within Hartford for it, because that was a professional sports team that was ripped away by Peter Karmanos, all right? It also was there was an affinity for the Whalers because of ESPNers who had nothing else to do in Connecticut. Go and read the book. Those guys have all the fun. The reason why they put it in Bristol is because they figure, well, you're never going to leave the building, so you're going to work here all the time. That's by design where it was located. And for a good time, you would go to a Whalers game. So a lot of people who were on ESPN and highly influential about how you would view sports were very upset about that team being ripped from a city that they had obviously become accustomed to, lived in, become a part of. So to Bomani's point, I view it from the public trust perspective in that it means something to your city. And if you really like the Whalers, you would have kept the Whalers logos. It would have been the Carolina Whalers, much like the Lakers were not originally in LA, but they kept the Lakers and now they're the LA Lakers, right? The Utah Jazz, all these things. Like team names just, you can transfer them. It's okay. But Peter Karmanos decided to have a completely new brand, get away from the loser Whaler mentality, and you got the Carolina Hurricanes, right? So it's a very complex, complicated issue that brings out a lot of feelings, which is why you're always going to get it when the Canes bring out the whale. That being said, as a consumer, I'm okay with it because it gets back to my original point. That logo is too damn good to be buried in a corner of the NHL Superstore in New York City. Bring it out, sell it, celebrate it. It is part of franchise history, so you might as well embrace it. So give it to me while also understanding it is a naked cash grab.
Yeah, there were two different ways this could go, and of course, we end up with the exception here. But let's use the NFL. When the Colts left Baltimore, they literally left in the middle of the night. They went from the Baltimore Colts to the Indianapolis Colts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, same logo, same everything, changed town.
Yep.
When the Cleveland Browns left Cleveland to go to Baltimore, they said, okay, we're leaving. We're going to Baltimore, but we're leaving the actual Browns name, logo,
yours,
history. That is yours.
Mm-hmm.
We are still an NFL franchise, but we don't have any of those records. We don't own the copyright to any of those logos.
Yeah.
Those are yours. Ironically enough, your wife could have helped the Baltimore Ravens because they had a logo that they lost a copyright suit when they originally had moved to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Okay. So those were the two different ways that it could have gone.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, Peter Karmanos owned the team when it was in Hartford, owned the logos. And instead of saying, I am leaving you the name, I'm leaving you the logos, I'm leaving you the history, he said, no. And it was probably because no one was there to buy it.
No.
Right? Like it becomes a property.
Yes.
So they take it with him, but he said, I'm moving. We still have the records, Gordie Howe, and we still have Ron Francis and whoever else you want to remember from the Whale, Kevin Deneen. We still have all of those things, but Peter Karmanos said, we don't play Brass Bonanza.
No.
We're not going to wear the uniforms. I'm not going to sell the merch.
It was a touchy subject.
He
moved on.
It was fine.
Yeah.
I would say to this person, and I don't think they're being that way, but like I would say to anyone who says stolen valor to Tom Dundon, I would say this. If you owned a property that was valuable, why wouldn't you make money off of it?
Right.
Like,
right.
This isn't the Brady Bunch. This isn't Peter Brady, Bobby Brady finding a token from an ancient burial ground that was sacred. Like, no, this is a property that he purchased and he owns. And he said, you know what? I'm going to make money off of it. Every other person would do the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm. So I don't fault him now. Again, getting back to the whole idea of it being a city's thing. Look at the Hornets. Okay. Like another contentious departure from an owner. The city bailed on it. But you notice that it wasn't so much that they were like, I want nothing to do with the Hornets. Here comes Bob Johnson. We've got the Bobcats now. Oh, no. They rejected the Bobcats because it wasn't the Hornets. So They could look past the crap owner and the reason why he ended up leaving, but there still was an affinity and an ownership over the Hornets. So when they finally brought the buzz back, you noticed, I mean, do I have it up? There's a reason why I went, because that was a celebration.
Yeah.
When, what date was that? That was in, October 29th, 2014. Okay. That was a celebration, man. That was a big deal. All that is to say that if the NHL ever decided to go back to Hartford, that's when the conversation gets interesting.
Quebec, same way. Like
that's when it gets
when
interesting.
they moved back to Winnipeg, Phoenix gave up whatever they had.
Right.
So again, there was two different ways this could have gone. It just so happened to go a way that it made it more complicated. But if there's anyone out there saying they wouldn't do the same exact thing that Tom Dundon has done,
yeah, you're lying.
They're lying.
All right, back to the sports phone.
Yo, Julio, this is Bluegrass Matt, not the police. I am going to get in your business, but it's for food-related purposes. I just cleared out some room in my freezer, heading over to get some meats from the butcher's market. You've been talking about these hot dogs forever. I don't have any new ideas. You are my brain. I'm going to get them. What do I do, though? I can't eat 50 in a weekend, so if I'm going to freeze them, what do you do, Julio? Do you just throw them on the grill frozen, or do you thaw them? What's best for the flavor? I know you have the answer. Thanks.
Now you don't have to buy 50. That's number one.
Yeah, that was just for the tailgate.
It's number one. Number two, I like to boil my hot dogs before I put them on the grill.
Okay,
so that's what I do. Take them out of the freezer, put them in the hot water for 2-3 minutes.
I've never done
that. Then
that.
I put them on the grill.
Why do you boil them?
Parboil. Very nice.
I've never done that.
Very
I just throw them on the grill.
Well,
get them a little crispy.
You and me.
We ain't the same.
You have new mail.
From a 919. Hey, Joe's, we had to put our cat down. And I understand where the guy who called in and Ovius was coming from. Didn't think I would be this sad when she passed away. Thanks. Well, first off, condolences. And yeah, man, pets are funny like that.
Mm-hmm.
Pets are very funny.
They're part of your life.
It's part of your life. If you're in my case with Roy, he decides, hey, man, you're my dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of miss not having Roy curled up next to me while I'm watching hoops, watching hockey, knocking out show notes or whatever it is, getting into arguments with people on social media. Roy was there. Yeah. Big old angel fluff right there, man, right on that chest, get all up in that. Miss that guy. So I get it. Totally get it, man. Very, very sad. I still miss that cat, man. Still miss that cat. From a 920 number, thoughts on potential drunk wolf shirts if state fails to make the ACC tournament in Charlotte. I know Destination Charlotte is still a thing. Destination Charlotte is not dead, ladies and gentlemen. I would say this about the drunk wolf. Be on the lookout next week. If 2024 was the year of the wolf, March was a great time of celebration, drinking, and fireball. Well, March 2025 would be what, Joe?
The hangover.
The year of the hangover. So be on the lookout. Might have something cooking here.
You've got mail.
From Steve, seeing NFL insiders getting into a fight at a Starbucks got me curious. Which one of you has fought another media guy? You know what? That's going to be for the paid side. That's going to be that. This is going to be behind the paywall. This is going to be behind the paywall. So if you want stories of me and Gilio fighting with other media members, head on over to ogtrianglemedia.com. Be part of OG Fans for as little as $13 a month. We appreciate everybody who's already subscribing. But if you want to get in on it, by all means, go to ogtrianglemedia.com. Not only do you get the full Mailbag episode, but you also get newsletters, premium podcasts like OG on Business, ACC Panic Room, and more. So head on over to ogtrianglemedia.com right now.
Here's a tale of